How's it going, everybody? KCG Trades here, back with another weekly watch list and stock market outlook video. Starting with how the market went last week, we finally got that pullback that I've been waiting for. If we take a look at the Nasdaq composite on my screen here, we kind of got a little bit overextended, and then we had a huge gap down to start the Thursday session. We gapped down on the Nasdaq right on top of the 21-day moving average, and then from there we just recovered strongly. We recovered back above the 10 EMA, and on Friday we had a huge day bouncing off the 10 EMA as well, and having the highest close of all time on the Nasdaq composite close, but not the actual all-time high. So this is all good. I'm feeling a little bit better than how I did last week. This week was a pretty good week for me. I felt in sync with the market while the market was continuously going higher Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I didn't really participate, but then when Thursday came, got that huge drop down, and I saw a lot of bounces happening vigorously. I decided to jump in and got some pretty good entries on some stocks, and now I'm going to hopefully ride the wave as we continue higher. If we take a look at the S&P 500, also looks pretty good. Like I mentioned, we had a huge gap down on Thursday. S&P wasn't as bad. We did drop down below the 10 EMA, but we recovered nicely. And on Friday, we had a huge, strong day, closing in all-time highs as well. So right now, the markets look really, really good. Looks really strong after that quick reset. It shows you how strong the market is. And even if we take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial, we do see here that the Dow Jones closed at all-time highs, bouncing off the 10, 21, and 50-day moving averages. Didn't hit all-time highs of 35,000, but it did have its highest close ever at 34,800. So this is all good to see. Broke out of this consolidation of this 2-month consolidation here. So it's all good to see. The market does look strong for continuous move higher, and a lot of these indexes, a lot of these ETFs are starting to come along together properly. So it's all good to see after that little shakeout there. It's nice to see how fast we recovered back, showing us how strong the market is. If we also take a look at the IBD 50, which is essentially growth stocks and the top 50 stocks in Investors Business Daily, we do see here we actually undercut the 50-day moving average, but we recovered nicely on Friday, so that's good to see. Obviously, the 200-day moving average is like the last line in the sand. So the fact that we undercut it and then recovered back above it shows that there is still some strength in growth stocks. So let's see if this could be the momentum we needed to continue higher. If we take a look at the IWO, which is the Russell 2000 Growth ETF, after pulling back nicely here, undercutting the 50-day moving average, we had a nice gap up, closed back above the 21 EMA, and closed right at the 10 EMA. So I want to see if this could continue higher and to see if we could retest that 314 level. There's a lot of room to grow. So if we do get above that 314 level, there's a lot of room to run to get back into all-time highs in the near future. If we take a look at the IWM real quick, we are still in this consolidation for the past 6-7 months. We got back above the 50-day moving average after undercutting it, which is good to see. Obviously, we wouldn't want to see these ETFs get below the 50-day, but the fact that it did and recovered shows there is still some strength there in small caps. So now that a lot of stocks are basically recovering from that quick little pullback, momentum starting to come back, it shows the whole market coming together, possibly going higher as a whole instead of just one or two sectors, which is always what you want to see. Now, if we take a look at the ARKK ETFs, which resembles a lot of the growth stocks, we see here we're flagging nicely here. We did have that little pullback for the past 2 weeks, found support at the 200-day moving average and bounced back up nicely. Friday, we had a strong day closing back above the 21 EMA and getting right at the 10 EMA. Now we're flagging here, like I mentioned. So if we could continue here the next coming sessions, next few weeks, get above this flag here and just continue higher, it would bode very well for growth stocks. If we also take a look at the VIX here, which is the volatility index, as I mentioned, we were getting kind of slow here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a big spike up, and that's exactly what we got on Thursday. We got that big spike up, and now we're just calming down nicely here, so I just want to see some continued action as we grind higher. So these are all good aspects in what we want to see in the market. I also wanted to look at the mega caps, the big names, the FANGs that are showing us real leadership in the market here and real accumulation. If we take a look at Apple, huge accumulation in the past few sessions, especially the last 4, huge volume, barely giving up any gains through that pullback. A little extended here as it's above the 10 EMA, but did close at all-time highs on Friday. It doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a handle here just for the moving averages to catch up, but this is definitely a very strong stock in the market right now, especially Amazon as well. Broke out of this 1-year consolidation that I mentioned in my last week video, broke out on very strong volume and continued higher. It is extended as we see here, so hopefully we get some more sideways action, get some tightening action as the moving averages catch up to price. If we take a look at Facebook, this is also strong, obviously not as strong as Amazon, NVDA, those names, but it did find support at the 21 EMA, bounced higher, closed back above the 10 EMA. This is all very strong action. Take a look at Google, just been riding that 10 EMA and 21 EMA nicely here. Continued strong action ever since having this gap up in February of 2021. If we take a look at Microsoft, this one has been a beast, closing near all-time highs, still above the 10 EMA, just grinding higher slowly and slowly. If we take a look at Shopify as well, it's just kind of basing out right here after a strong move from the 1200s all the way to the high 1500s, just basing here, riding the 10 EMA. So these all look good. And also lastly, we want NVIDIA, strong run up, now starting to base here after that pullback, did find support at the 10 EMA. So this is exactly what you want to see in all of these strong names. You know, the leadership is starting to act very well. Big tech names are showing real accumulation and showing that these want to go higher, obviously propelling the market higher. So in general, I am still very bullish. I was a little bit disconnected from the markets last week, but I am starting to feel a bit better this week. And hopefully we could continue this strength, not get too extended in the markets, and just have a nice little power trend throughout the summer. So with that being said, let's get in right to my weekly watch list for the week. I do have about 10 names I'm watching, and the first stock I'm watching is ALGN. So Align Technology's chart really speaks for itself. I want to see a huge breakout off this sideways base that's been basing for about 6-7 months. It did try a few times on April 29th and even on Friday, but didn't get the chance to actually do it. So I really want to see a move above 630 on very strong volume, and I want to see a close above that 630 level, above this sideways resistance line here. If we could do so, I really believe we could continue higher, go into all-time highs, and have a nice trend for the summer. Very simple chart. That's really what I'm watching for, a move above 630 on strong volume. The next stock I'm watching is DDD, so 3D Systems here. I do really like the chart here. It's getting tight for the past few sessions, especially past 2 weeks. Very similar to what we saw in the beginning of June. Got very tight along the moving averages. Now we got a bit extended, pulled back, found some support at the 21 EMA, reclaimed it, had a nice inside day on Friday, right above the 21 EMA. So I want to see it get above Friday's high of 34.84. So I want to enter essentially around 35. We want to see some volume accompany this, but if we could get some volume pop out of this little wedge here, I definitely see this getting higher, getting above the 10 EMA, and possibly retesting highs in the near future. That's really what I'm watching for with DDD. The next stock I'm watching is Etsy. All right, if we take a look at Etsy stock here, it does look very similar to the ARKK ETF chart and even the IWO chart. We did have a gap down below the 200-day moving average on very strong volume, but we have recovered nicely ever since. We did fill that gap, and ever since we did hit that 200-210 level, and for the past 2 weeks, we've just been pulling back. On Thursday, we had that ugly gap down, but we had a very strong reversal bouncing off the 21 EMA. Friday was a very low volume day, kind of an inside day, but not technically. It was very close to being an inside day, but it did bounce off the 10 EMA. Has this nice little bull flag structure here. So essentially, I want to see it get above the Friday's high of 196.92, get above this small downtrend line here. If we get above that on strong volume, I do see a lot of potential for this stock to go higher, especially if the ARK ETF and the growth stocks can follow as well, as a lot of them are showing signs of flagging here. If we could all get above this flag here, there's a lot of room to go higher. That's really what I'm watching for with Etsy, and the next stock I'm watching is what I showed earlier in NVIDIA. All right, so NVIDIA has been on an absolute tear for the past 2 months, going from the lows of 540-ish all the way to 835. Pretty close to doubling in value just in a month and a half, which is amazing to see. It has been riding the 10 EMA nicely here, finding a few bounces. So this is actually the second time it bounced off the 10 EMA. Didn't bounce yet, but it did find support here 2 days in a row. After gapping on Thursday, we found support at 10 EMA. Friday found support as well. So now we had 2 tight ranges on right on the 10 EMA. So I want to see if we could bounce back above this 805 level on strong volume, clear that gap that occurred to 815 and continue higher to see if we could possibly retest these highs and continue higher. Obviously, because of how high it moved in the past month and a half, it is possible that we may base for a little bit, but the fact that this stock is so strong, who knows, it could go straight to 1,000. So if this is an opportunity for me to get in, I'm not going to pass on it. Obviously, the stop will be very tight at the lows of Thursday around 786. But if this is an opportunity, I'm definitely going to take it because of how strong the stock is being for the past few months. So that's really what I'm watching for NVIDIA. And the next stock I'm watching is Pinterest. All right, so Pinterest has a holy grail setup forming here. And if you don't know what that is, I did make a video on it and I'll leave the link above. Essentially here we found 2 bounces off the 21 EMA, which is exactly what you want to see in a holy grail setup. After its strong move from the lows of 53.94 going all the way to 81.82, we did find 2 bounces after having that gap down on Thursday. So essentially what I'm looking for is a move 10 cents above the high of Friday's candle, so around 77.35, which will be above the 10 EMA as well, which is good to see. So if we could see that get above the 10 EMA, get above this downtrend line in the near future, that would be very bullish. As previously we did find some resistance at this downtrend line around the 80s level. We got denied by it, but we're bouncing off the 21 EMA. So if we get another test of this downtrend line here in the near future, get above it, it would be very bullish for this stock. But essentially for now, for this week, what's actionable is getting above this Friday's candle and filling that gap and see if we could continue higher. So that's what I'm watching for Pinterest. And the next stock I'm watching is RH. So RH does look like a stock that's ready to rip soon. It did try to break out a few times on Wednesday and Friday, but it did squat closing below this downtrend line here. So essentially what I'm looking for is a move above this downtrend line on strong volume and a close above this downtrend line, essentially above 710 on strong volume. We want to see a big ignition bar on strong volume, essentially like a volume like this, with a huge bar, just something like this here. If we could see that in this coming week, that would be very significant for this stock, and there would be no doubt in my mind this could hit all-time highs soon with the momentum that it's having, especially with the volume accumulation recently. A lot of the strong volume days have been accompanied by big green days, so I want to see if that could continue in the next few sessions. So that's really what I'm watching for with RH, and the next stock I'm watching is ROKU. So I have been trying to get in ROKU for quite some time because I did enter around the 358 level. I thought it was a perfect breakout, but then it squatted horribly. I got stopped out, and then the next few sessions it just ripped completely and I wasn't able to get in. So it did hurt my ego a bit, but I wasn't worried. I knew there was going to be an alternate entry eventually. I didn't want to chase as well, and the Thursday gap down was perfect for me. If we take a look here, Thursday we gapped down right to the 21 EMA, bounced off it perfectly, and I was able to actually get in on Thursday, and the Thursday and Friday was very strong days. Now I'm looking to add to my position on possibly Monday because we have a nice little flag formation here. Got above the 10 EMA, and now we have this nice flag here. So essentially I want to see a move above the flag or above the downtrend line around 434. If we could do so on strong volume and continue higher, there's a lot of room to run. And I'm hoping we could continue this for the rest of the summer, eventually hitting those all-time highs of the 486 level. So that's what I'm watching for with ROKU, and the next stock I'm watching is the trade desk TTD. So TTD is another stock that's been on my radar for a few weeks here after breaking out of this downtrend line on superb volume, huge ignition bar. It's just been going sideways for the past few weeks, kind of forming this little bull flag here. I have been waiting for it to retest that 10 EMA, and it did so on Thursday after we gapped down. It gapped down and then recovered nicely. What's really impressing me about this right now is the fact that it's holding its high volume close. It did undercut it a few times, but it seems to always get back above it, which is really, really good to see. And on Friday, we had another retest of the 10 EMA and bounced right back above it. So essentially, I'm waiting for this stock to get a little more tight and get above this little flag here. I want to see it get above it on very strong volume, basically have another run up after digesting its huge gains, letting the moving averages catch up, which it did so perfectly. So I want to see it get above the 80 level and possibly get a nice move so we can retest that 90 level, and then in a few weeks hopefully retest the all-time high levels of the 97 to 100 levels. It's very much what I'm looking for with TTD. And the next stock I'm watching is TWLO, TWLO. So TWLO actually looks best if we take a look at the weekly chart here. If we take a look, it has this little double bottom formation setup here, undercut the prior lows, and now we're right at the pivot level of that double bottom breakout. Essentially what I want to see is a move above 395 on strong volume. If we could get above that and get a close above 395 on the weekly, that would be very significant for the stock, and there's a lots of room to run if we could get above this double bottom here. Definitely no question in my mind we could retest all-time highs in the next few weeks, few months, but definitely the first step would be getting above that 395 level. It did so a few times in the daily chart, but never got to close above it on the weekly. So if we could get above it, that would be very significant for the stock. We do see here on Thursday that gap down that really almost touched the 21 EMA, got recovered nicely, especially on Friday, closed near the highs and closed right below that double bottom pivot. So if we get above it on strong volume, this stock can definitely begin another move here. So that's really what I'm watching for with TWLO. Pay attention to the weekly chart. Take a look at the daily to see for a proper entry. But yeah, this is definitely what I'm watching for this double bottom setup. And the last stock I'm watching for the week is Zscaler. All right, so Zscaler is another stock that looks very good on the weekly. After breaking out of this double bottom pivot here on strong volume, it's just been chugging along higher ever since. It did retest the all-time high levels, but then just squatted a little bit lower. If you take a look at the daily chart here, it does look to be setting up for another move into all-time highs. Has been very strong as of late, similar to CrowdStrike. So what I want to see is a move above 231.59 on strong volume. If we could do so, there's tons of room to run after it's been basing for about almost all of 2021. So it has a pretty strong base, good foundation. It is a strong stock. It is a good cybersecurity stock, has good earnings, has good growth. There's lots of room to run if we get above the all-time high level, and that's really what I'm watching for with Zscaler. So that's my watch list for the week. I hope you guys did enjoy. Please leave any comments down below. Please like this video if you haven't. Hope you guys have a wonderful week and kill the markets. Take care.